Oh honey, you're not prepared for this one. Just when you thought that Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's drama couldn't get any worse, another bombshell has been dropped. And believe me, this one is going to rock the entire world of hip-hop and love. Imagine this, Chrissy Lampkin, who supported Jim Jones during his infidelity scandals, financial turmoil, and public humiliation, was slapped and evicted from the house, and the culprit, oh, you won't believe it, was Jim Jones' own son, Joseph. Yes, that's the same Joseph, who had seen the drama play out for years, eventually lost it, and Chrissy was the target of his wrath. But believe me when I say that it didn't finish with a simple slap. Word on the street is that Joseph really ejected Chrissy from the house and left her there. With just her phone and a look of complete embarrassment, she stood on the pavement. But why did Joseph lose it, and how did Jim Jones respond when he saw that the fallout from this one would be significant? Stay hooked in, because after you discover what caused it, you're going to have to sit down for this violent showdown, honey. If you thought the relationship between Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin was bad before, get ready, because it's now even more wild. And it's not just Jim and Chrissy. At the heart of the story is Jim's son Joseph Go, who just lost it in the most horrifying way possible. Let me describe the scene for you. Chrissy, who supported GI for more than 15 years, was slapped hard and evicted from the house like yesterday. Trash and the culprit. Oh, honey, it wasn't Jim Jones, was his son, Joseph. Yes, Jim Jones' son, the same Joseph who has been playing the quiet, respectful one for years, finally lost his temper. From what I've heard, this wasn't just some random outburst, but no, honey, there's a whole backstory to this, and I promise you that you will be shaken once you hear what set Joseph off. Let's take a moment to go back in time. If you've been following Jim and Chrissy's relationship over the years, you already know it's been Chrissy had been through a lot, including suspicions of cheating, financial difficulties, and that disastrous proposal that didn't work out. Joseph, however, remained in the background and watched his father treat Chrissy disrespectfully. Again, but things really heated a few months ago when it was rumored that Jim had been having an affair with Brooke Bailey. Yes, the same reality star who has been making headlines in the hip-hop and love worlds for all the wrong reasons. Reasons and Chrissy. Oh, she wasn't going to take this one lying down. Rumors began to circulate that Chrissy and Jim had been arguing behind closed doors over Brooke, and Chrissy was allegedly incensed after discovering communications between Jim and Brooke. It was awful, and Joseph saw it all. He saw Chrissy confront Jim, and he saw Jim attempt to gaslight Chrissy into thinking it was all in her. We're not chatting amicably. How are you? These were late night, I miss you, and come through texts. He witnessed Jim slinking off to business meetings that coincided with Brooke's vacation schedule. Let me tell you, Joseph was not pleased, but it wasn't until Chrissy went too far that he finally lost it last week. Chrissy arrived at Jim's house to confront him after learning that he had been seen with Brooke once more. Insiders said that Chrissy wasn't just angry this time, she was out for blood. She was yelling and throwing objects, and demanding answers. Jim was attempting to soothe her, but Chrissy, oh honey, was not listening. She allegedly began smashing glasses and destroying furniture, which is when Joseph entered the room. Joseph had been sitting in the adjacent room, attempting to ignore the commotion. He eventually had enough and entered the room between Chrissy and his father, telling her to calm down. Chrissy, however, reportedly got up in Joseph's face, pointed a finger at him, and shouted, "Oh, I'm not about to take orders from a 20-something kid." Joseph reportedly slapped Chrissy across the face hard. Yeah, you heard correctly, and insiders say it was not a light slap. This is between me and your father, so keep the heck out of it. Joseph, my honey, saw red before anyone could comprehend what was happening. Apparently, after hitting Chrissy, Joseph pointed toward the door and yelled, "Get the hell out of that." It was so loud that it reverberated throughout the home. Chrissy staggered back, clutching her cheek in astonishment, and Jim just stood there, his mouth hanging wide. Initially, Chrissy believed he was kidding, but Joseph was serious. According to reports, he approached the door, opened it, and threatened to make Chrissy leave if she didn't go. She was still standing there in astonishment, gripping her face, but Joseph wasn't playing games. He allegedly took Chrissy's pocketbook, tossed it onto the grass, and screamed, "That's your last warning." According to reports, Chrissy was forced to leave, staggered out of the house with tears streaming down her face, and stood on the curb in shock. Joseph apparently closed the door, locked it, and left as if nothing had occurred. But here is the part that has everyone talking. Why did Joseph suddenly lose it after years of remaining silent? He didn't say a word. He just stood there and watched everything happen. Did he turn on Chrissy all of a sudden? Well, honey, I have some receipts, and when you hear what I'm going to tell you, you'll know exactly why Joseph lost it. But hold on, because we're only just getting started. Stay tuned for part 2 because you haven't seen anything yet, honey, because what I'm going to tell you, you will make the slap appear like a love tap if you're still getting over the fact that Jim killed Chrissy. The reality about why Joseph hit her is even dirtier than you believe. Let's pick up exactly where we left off, with Chrissy standing on the pavement, clutching her cheek in shock after Joan's son Joseph Gu slapped her and threw her out of the house. Sit tight because the reality about why Joseph snapped is much worse than you may think. The story didn't finish there, though, because insiders claim that Chrissy didn't leave peacefully when Joseph hit her and threw her out, and Jim was still standing in the doorway, too astonished to move. According to sources, Chrissy began beating on the door after Joseph locked it, and neighbors heard her yelling, "Open the damn door, Joseph." She may have been humiliated, but she wasn't going down without a fight. Wasn't listening, he allegedly advised his father to let her scream because she wouldn't be able to get back in. This is where everyone starts talking, though, because Jim simply stood there and let it happen. Chrissy claimed to have stood outside for almost 15 minutes, screaming and swearing at Jim and Joseph. Chrissy took out her phone and began phoning people when it became apparent that they wouldn't allow her to return. Guess who showed up? Mama Jones, the drama queen, arrived at the house in her SUV as if to declare war. Neighbors said that Mama Jones banged on the front door louder than Chrissy, and that when Joseph opened it, it was on Mama Jones. Mama Jones allegedly got in Joseph's face and yelled, "Have you lost your damn mind?" Joseph reportedly retaliated by saying, "Insiders claim that Mama Jones wasn't amused by Jim standing there like a statue after I did what Dad should have done years ago." She pointed at Jim and shouted, "You're really going to stand there and let him treat Chrissy like that?" Joseph allegedly cut her off, arguing that Chrissy deserved it. At this point, Chrissy was still crying and screaming outside on the lawn, and Mama Jones, oh honey, apparently had had enough. She turned to Joseph and told him, "You need to fix this now." But Joseph, oh honey, was not giving up. According to reports, he told his grandma that Chrissy had been abusing his father for years. All she had ever done was take and take, and Dad was too weak to resist, so I did it for him. At that point, Chrissy reportedly lost it and went back to the door, screaming, "I've been accused of exploiting him after everything I've endured." And that's when the real story began to come out, because Joseph allegedly turned to Chrissy and said, "Don't act like you're innocent, honey. I know everything now." According to people familiar with the matter, Joseph had been holding onto some fairly damaging information about Chrissy and was ready to spill the beans. Joseph allegedly exclaimed, "I saw the text, Chrissy, don't play dumb," making Chrissy go pale, and Mama Jones, oh honey, she was Joseph discovered texts between Chrissy and an unidentified male on her phone while she was sitting there with her mouth open. We're not talking about flirtatious emoticons, honey, we're talking about late night, I miss you messages, intimate pictures, and even plans to meet behind Jim's back. Apparently, Joseph understood exactly who the mystery man was. Joseph remarked, "You think you're slick meeting up with Dad's business partner behind his back?" Yes, honey, you heard correctly, Chrissy. Not only was she supposedly having an affair with Jim's business partner, but Joseph also had the receipts. Chrissy initially denied it, but Joseph wouldn't let it go. He allegedly took out his phone and showed Jim the screenshots, and Jim, my honey Jim, was Jim reportedly shook and reached for the phone, scrolled through the messages, and turned pale. He reportedly looked at Chrissy and screamed, "How could you and Chrissy do this?" She didn't even attempt to refute anything, claiming that you've been abusing me for years. Jim allegedly lost it when Chrissy, oh honey, looked him in the eye and stated, "Yeah, I did," after Joseph reportedly retaliated, "Giving you a taste of your own medicine. You had assumed that sleeping with Dad's business partner was the solution." Said, "Get the hell out," and hurled the phone across the room. Chrissy reportedly rushed out, screaming back at him, saying, "You don't get to play the victim now." Joseph, oh honey, reportedly turned to his father and said, "Told you," and Mama Jones, oh. As if to warn you, honey, she was sitting there with her arms crossed. However, this is where things get even more complicated, since insiders claim that this wasn't the first time Chrissy had been caught creeping. Oh no, Joseph allegedly had proof that Chrissy had been. He allegedly spied on Jim for months, telling him, "You think this is the first time, Dad? She's been playing you for years, and you were too blind to see it." Jim, oh honey, reportedly went down on the couch, buried his head in his hands, and added, "I don't even know who she is." Now, but Joseph, oh honey, he wasn't finished yet. According to sources, Joseph told his father, "You need to cut her off now." Jim, on the other hand, is reportedly already speaking with his lawyers, but this is the part that has everyone talking. Who is this mysterious man that Chrissy had been having an affair, and why was Joseph so involved in this? Well, honey, according to what I've been told, Joseph wasn't just protecting his father. He was guarding something far larger, and when you hear what it is, you're going to know exactly why Joseph finally lost it. But don't worry, this story is far from finished. Be sure to tune in for part 3 because the truth about Chrissy's mystery man and the fallout from Joseph's slap will make things even more ugly than you would have imagined. Part 2 was messy, so buckle up because part 3 is going to blow your mind. Everyone thought that Joseph's slap and her expulsion were the climax, but honey, that was only the beginning. What occurred after Chrissy was expelled is even more stunning. Because, believe me, the fallout from this scandal has not only affected Jim and Chrissy, it is threatening to destroy Jim's entire empire. Let's continue where we left off, with Chrissy standing on the pavement, humiliated and incensed after Joseph revealed her romance with Jim's business partner. Jim was sitting on the couch with his head in his hands, absolutely shattered by the treachery. According to people close to the case, Joseph wasn't finished yet. He wasn't only upset over Chrissy's betrayal, he was upset about what happened. The business partner that Chrissy was supposedly having an affair with wasn't just any acquaintance. He was reportedly one of the main investors in Jim's real estate empire. This might be financially detrimental to Jim. According to reports, Joseph reminded Jim that if this gets out, it won't just be embarrassing. You may lose everything. Jim, my honey, was already on the edge of losing it. He reportedly jumped up, grabbed his phone, and began phoning his attorneys, but Joseph was well ahead of him. Insiders claim that Joseph had been investigating for weeks and had long thought Chrissy was doing business with this partner. But it wasn't until he saw the invoices that Joseph, reportedly informed Jim that he needed to break off his relationship with him immediately because if he didn't, it would blow up in his face. Jim recognized that Joseph was correct, and according to insiders, he called his company manager right away and ordered him to start dissolving any partnerships with Chrissy's mystery guy and honey were the source of the situation's worsening as, according to insiders, the business partner, who is supposedly known as Freddie G, wasn't going to give up easily. Called Jim the following day and threatened legal action, claiming that Chrissy had made a mistaken commitment to him regarding Jim's business and that he would sue Jim for breach of contract if Jim attempted to cut him off. Yes, honey, Chrissy didn't just cheat. She reportedly used her connection with Freddie to get him to participate in Jim's business dealings, and now that the truth is out, Freddie is allegedly demanding his portion or else. The worst part is that, according to sources, Freddie is holding onto something that could ruin Jim's career. According to what I've heard, Freddie told Jim that if he tried to distance himself from Chrissy, he would release the video. This is a serious case of blackmail, and Jim. Insiders claim that Jim was prepared to fight and informed Freddie that if he tried to leak the video, he would regret it. However, this is where things become really ugly because Chrissy reportedly knew about the tape beforehand and was counting on it. Joseph allegedly urged Freddie, "If Jim tries to cut you off, drop the video and let him suffer." Insiders claim that Joseph became enraged and addressed Chrissy directly after learning that she was actively plotting against Jim in addition to cheating. Replied, "You really think you're going to play my father like that? Over the phone?" Chrissy, oh honey, apparently wasn't even bothered and informed Joseph, "I gave your father 15 years of my life. I'm taking what I deserve. Joseph." Joseph apparently lost it at that time, according to insiders. Joseph phoned Freddie directly and warned him that if he leaked the tape, he would be fired back since he didn't give him 15 years, and he used him for 15 years. Chrissy remarked, "Oh honey," in response. Freddie, who was not backing down, reportedly informed Joseph, "If I go down, I'm taking your father with me." That's when things took a turn that nobody saw coming, as insiders claim that Joseph called VH1 and told them he had a story. Yes, honey, Joseph allegedly told VH1 that he had evidence that Chrissy had been having an affair with Freddie for more than a year, and that Jim had been aware of it the entire time. Joseph also reportedly said, "You want a storyline? I've Got One, and VH1. Oh honey, they were prepared to act quickly. Insiders claim that VH1 is already preparing a special two-part episode on the scandal, and they want Jim, Chrissy, and Joseph to discuss it on camera. Jim, however, is reportedly thinking about it. Thinking of taking advantage of the scandal and using it as a redemption arc to repair his reputation. But Chrissy, oh honey, isn't going to allow that to happen. According to reports, Chris told Jim, "If you go on camera and try to play the victim, I'm going to expose everything." And Joseph allegedly told Chrissy that you had already exposed yourself. But this is where things get even more complicated, since Chrissy is allegedly collaborating with Freddie to make a separate agreement with Bet where they would provide their version of events. Joseph is prepared for what is likely to become a full-fledged TV war, according to sources. Joseph informed his father that he needed to cut them off entirely. No communication, no business dealings, no phone calls, and Jim, oh honey, apparently agreed. But here's the part. Joseph is allegedly getting ready to file a restraining order against Chrissy and Freddie. Yes, honey, a restraining order. Joseph reportedly warned his father, "She's dangerous. She's already tried to ruin you and Al. The next time, it could be worse." That has everyone talking. Jim is reportedly listening, and insiders claim that Jim has already financially cut off Chrissy. No more credit cards, no access to company accounts, nothing, and Chrissy is furious. Insiders claim that Chrissy is now threatening to withdraw. According to sources, Joseph told his father that she would not receive $1, and Jim nodded and said, "Let her try, honey. If you think this is the case, then this is the case." Jim is being sued for emotional damages, and she wants half of his business. Finally, you're mistaken because, according to what I've heard, Freddie is still holding onto that tape. If it leaks, it might ruin Jim's career forever. What will happen next? Will Freddie release the video? Will Chrissy sue Jim? And will Joseph be allowed to keep his SP? What do you think, family? Did Joseph go too far by slapping Chrissy and kicking her out, or was he just being dramatic? Father's empire is disintegrating, but one thing is certain. This story is far from finished. Stay tuned because when that video comes out, oh honey, it will blow the internet apart. Safeguarding his father from further treachery, and do you believe Freddie will actually release that video and ruin Jim's career? Does Chrissy deserve a share of Jim's empire in light of everything that has transpired? Tell us that she's just acting like the victim. Your thoughts in the comments section below, and remember to hit like and subscribe. That alert bell because, believe me, there is still much more to this story if the video drops, but you already know, honey. When I return, I'll have all the exclusive. Stay tuned for further details.